I think Resident Evil is an immersive experience. The idea is to kind of immerse you in this scary, terrifying world. I remember when I was a kid and I went to see movies, the sound, for example, would just come from the front of the theatre. And then slowly sound technology developed, the sound kind of wrapped around you and the sound became more immersive. And I feel like 3D, you're finally going to be immersed in a visual sense as well.
The challenges for making a film in 3D at this point are quite significant. There are a limited number of cameramen who are truly experienced with it.
The cameras are heavier, they are more complicated, they take longer to set up, they require more lighting, so the lighting time is longer on the set.
Shooting 3D takes a little bit more time. There's a bit of a different thought process that goes into every shot, just in terms of foreground placement, background placement, midground placement, how you block the actors.
One of the challenges is how slowly we have to shoot sometimes. Occasionally, we'll only get about a page a day, so you have to always be ready to turn it on whenever they need you.
It really kind of made you think very, very hard about, do you need this shot? That gave you more time to compose the 3D images that you really did want in the movie.
We went to the company that did Avatar, a company called Pace, run by a man called Vincent Pace.
Vince Pace worked with James Cameron on, The Abyss, developed underwater systems, underwater lights, and that just led to developing 3D rigs. The rig that we used were the Pace Fusion rigs. To shoot a 3D image, you need 2 cameras.
You're dealing with an image for the left eye and an image for the right eye.
You have 2 different cameras that make up the 3D aspect of the film. So he's got to make sure that everything lines up just so.
You need to separate the 2 cameras and then have control over how far apart you have those 2 cameras separated. That's sort of your volume of 3D. We actually put one camera up top and one shoots out straight, and they shoot through a half-silvered mirror. And we have to do that so that you can get the cameras close enough to the same object. And if the object moves, you have to be able to follow them.
We used the Sony F35 cameras, which I felt were the best digital cameras available on the market.
The cameras that we're using is, state-of-the-art technology, so it's a lot of fun to get to play with those toys.
These guys are figuring it out as they go along, and it's so exciting to watch something new being created.
A lot of the gear that we are using on the film is custom-made for our requirements.
These are big beasts, these cameras, and they're heavy. And so you try and put them on a normal crane, and the crane can't take the weight. So we ended up designing and building a lot of our own stuff. We had to build our own Steadicam system. We had to build our own motion control rig.
Paul came up with shots that would really benefit from the positive and negative space that is 3D.
There's some really terrific, spectacular sequences that 3D really enhances.
There's a sequence in which 2 Alice clones dive through a glass window and drop hundreds of feet, which is a wonderful sequence in 3D. That was very inspired by the fact we were shooting in 3D.
It's not gimmicky, but it's definitely big 3D, and it just makes it a lot of fun to watch.
Where 3D works very well is where you can show depth. One of the things that shows depth is particulate matter in the air, whether that's rain or smoke or underwater where you have things floating underwater. So I designed a series of scenes that would really take advantage of that. There's a big fight scene between Milla and Ellie and this character called the Edge.
200 frames a second. And you can watch a drop come out of the shower and hit the ground. That's really amazing to see in 3D because there's water everywhere in the foreground, the background, between the actors, falling on the actors.
It doesn't have to be a big environment to work really well in 3D. We have a scene where Milla and Ellie are crawling through these very tight tunnels, and you really feel like you're in those tunnels with them.
The sets have been designed, the stunts have been designed, the weapons have been designed. Everything's been designed to enhance the 3D experience.
I was very excited when I heard that we were going to be working in 3D. One of the things that always has been fun about 3D is that whole poking your eye thing.
It's great when you have objects, that come right towards the lens. It's not always possible, You want it to come out of the screen, you've got to throw it right into the matte box and destroy the camera and the lens and the mirror and everything. So typically, those elements will become CG elements.
This movie's been a lot of fun because we've been able to explore another dimension in terms of how our effects are presented, which is the spatial dimension that the audience relates to in the theater.
You're always going, wow, that visual is amazing. Oh my God, I can't believe that came right at me and landed in my lap.
We're having fun with the spatial dimensionality of the movie, but not getting in the way of the story.
I've always, as a production designer, worked on sets that have a level of depth to them. And 3D is a very good medium for that.
So we composed sets that had great depth to really accentuate the stereoscopic effect. Then how you move the camera changes as well. You tend not to move the camera too fast because your mind, as a viewer, has more to take in.
It's too much if you've got lots of things close to camera. So the images keep the momentum going because of the 3D element.
We were the first movie to actually cut in 3D. All movies up until this point have cut in 2 dimensions and then projected it 3D and then seen how it works and then kind of had to change it because cutting patterns work differently in 3D than in 2D. We were very inventive and that kind of made it a lot of fun, really. I'm very, very involved in the look of my movies. If I wasn't a director, I probably would be a production designer. So it's something that I'm very invested in.
The imagined future in this film really does start with Paul's written word. We really rely on his vision to kind of direct us in what we're creating in terms of design.
Because Paul is such a visual director, he thought the audience don't just want to see bleak post-apocalyptic environments.
I read the script and I remember thinking it was huge. I mean, just in terms of scale. There's 3 distinct visual changes. There's Alaska, which is very crisp and clean and clear. Then there's Los Angeles, which is covered in ash and very dark and colorless. And there's Wesker's Laboratories, which is all antiseptic white and crisp again.
The landscape for Resident Evil 4 was basically decided early on as we started sketching what these places would look like. We have the Umbrella Corp underground and the survivors and the zombie living above ground at another end of it. So we're trying to contrast them basically. And that contrast was giving Umbrella Corp everything that was really polished and nicely designed. And giving the post-apocalyptic world this gray, brownish hue, this cloud that is constantly over them.
We're huge fans of snow environments. We loved the movie The Thing, so Paul had this idea of Alaska, which again was also embedded in the last movie.
We shot in Tokyo.
We sent a small unit over there to get some background plates.
We shot on Hollywood Boulevard. We shot in Long Beach. We shot round where the Hollywood sign is. When I was writing the screenplay, there were all these big forest fires raging on the outskirts of LA. Even with all of our modern technology, it still takes weeks and weeks to get these forest fires under control. And it started me thinking, what would happen in the world of Resident Evil, where there are no human beings left to fight these natural occurrences? And obviously the answer is, these fires are going to sweep down off the hillsides and they're going to go straight through LA.
We talked a lot about the look, but I would tear out photographs from magazines just to establish what Los Angeles might look like if it was burnt out and covered in a fog of ash.
That's the Hollywood that we portray in this movie. It's kind of a burning city, which I thought was very fresh imagery for Resident Evil.
It's actually a cold, sort of colorless look.
For 80% of the movie, we're actually based in Toronto. They had very good stage space. And also they had some amazing locations.
He's very influenced by geography and architecture. So We were obviously going to go to Tokyo. That was embedded in the end of the last film.
We recreated a very famous intersection, Shibuya, Tokyo, in a parking lot with green screen all around us. It's a very sort of greeny blue, high-tech feel to it.
There are a lot of urban environment areas that are playing for Los Angeles that work very well here in Toronto, and we're being given permission to do it.
The magnitude of some of our sets sort of really give in to that sort of corporation that's looming over the world.
We've actually shot a number of sequences at various University of Toronto buildings because they're just so architecturally amazing. Then the whole opening Umbrella Corporation in Tokyo sequence was done at the Dan Pharmaceutical Building at the University of Toronto, which is just this astonishing interior space.
No one had ever really put this on film before. I thought this just looks so unique that everyone's going to think we built it anyway.
There was a derelict roller skating rink that was supposed to have renovated, but the project was abandoned. And it had such interesting architecture that we were able to actually use it for about 3 or 4 different sets. The jail cell that Chris Redfield is found in.
Wendell isn't the only one that hears things.
Our sewers, we had tunnels in there. And we also had the opening of the movie where the Alices come down into the Umbrella Corp entrance, their garage, so to speak. They were all done in that one roller rink.
We built sets that were big enough that when I was doing close dialogue coverage, you could stay within the set. But whenever you came back to a wide shot, it became a visual effect. Walk to the end, that tiny little red mark is your mark. Walk in, the doors will open, stop, look around. To your left here, in this green bay here, is a V-22.
Right.
And then the green bay beyond, there's another one, and then another 3 beyond that. So there's
Right.
5 in total, which is pretty impressive.
A lot of the scenes are shot in various layers, so you have backgrounds, foregrounds, green screen.
Probably a good 50% of the movie is shot, on green screen. Did a lot of set extension.
I knew it!
The roof of the prison, for example, that was entirely a build on stage. There's only a small portion of that roof exists.
This rooftop is actually based on a building that's at the University of Toronto that Paul saw and fell in love with, the Robards Library.
Be shooting the stage, and we hung green curtains, basically, knowing that we would be putting post-apocalyptic Los Angeles into the backgrounds.
A lot of the shots, I think the CG work is very, very good because it's very hard, even for people who made the film, to tell exactly when the physical set stops and the digital set begins. I think it's one of the strengths of the game franchise is that the undead have evolved. So even though you're in a bigger space, your enemy has become even faster.
The undeads are out there and they are coming and they are faster than before, they are stronger than before.
Undeads with heads that open up and mandibles that come out, dogs with heads that flower open.
We have burrowing zombies, we have water zombies.
The undead do evolve, and they do become fresh and more interesting and more exciting each time around.
We're here in the makeup trailer today, the prosthetics makeup trailer. There's several trailers. There's trailer for hair, trailer for makeup, and trailer for prosthetics. When we're doing prosthetic makeup on an actor to change their appearance either into an undead or to a mutated version of themselves, for some of the key characters, we would take an impression of their face called a life cast. On top of that life cast, we would sculpt the makeup, blending the edges of the makeup into the surface of their face. Make a mold of that, and then reproduce our clay sculpture in a foam or a gelatin or a silicone. And that material, having the edge of it be like lace, essentially, when you glue it onto someone's face using prosthetic colors, and cosmetically it blends into their skin. So we're able to take that process, but apply it to our new breeds of zombie.
They were in wardrobe, getting their undead wardrobe on and undead makeup and being powdered down.
Another day in the office.
To be surrounded by zombies on set is a fantastically unique experience. First of all, it makes you feel very beautiful and very alive. You would see them at lunchtime when they can't remove the prosthetics, but they'd like lift their lip up and would have a straw in their mouth. It was the most disgusting thing to see, yet slightly cool.
Who are the real inheritors of the Earth? Is it the last remnants of humanity, or is it people who want to kind of eat the last remnants of humanity? I think at any one time, probably the most undead we had in any scene was about 100.
Over here! There's some scenes where there's tens of thousands of undead, and we didn't have that many.
We had a core group, and then we would basically do tiles.
Pilings, where you may want 300 undead in the shot. So you take the 100 and you have them on the right of the screen. Then you keep the camera locked off, you move that same 100 into the middle of the screen, then you put them on the left-hand side of the screen, and then you kind of stitch them all together in the computer, and you have 300 undead.
And then on some of the high aerial shots, those undead are all CG undeads.
Those are created by Dennis Berardi in incredible detail.
Our goal always is to have our effects seamlessly integrate into the visual style of the show, whereby you don't know what is real and what is practical, what is physical and what is digital.
The undead models, you know, you can look at them, they have pores in their skin, they have individual hairs in their follicles. So it's hard to tell in a wide shot the difference between a digital undead and a real extra.
In the past, people have been brought back to life by the virus, who are technically zombies, and now
he is incredibly powerful. The Axeman is this giant. He carries this huge sledgehammer slash axe slash meat tenderizer.
The Axeman is, apparently he's like 9 feet tall. I don't know where they found that guy. But he's huge. He makes me, look like a midget. He's very intimidating, and that's what he's supposed to be.
We cast for like 8 feet tall guys, and Rick Forsyth, our stunt coordinator, would do the casting because we have to try and find people who are phenomenally huge. This guy apparently came to meet Rick at his house and was so tall he couldn't get through the door. He had to bend down, and then bend down while he was still in Rick's house. It was huge.
Action! We had an awesome actor named Raymond who's 6'7", and we gave him lift, so he's close to 7 foot tall in the movie. He has a very pliable and horrendous-looking bodysuit to show his body scarred up. He has a big leather butcher's apron, leather gloves, and of course, to top it off, he wears essentially an executioner's hood, but made of sackcloth that has been bloodstained from all the victims he's killed over the years.
You okay, Ray?
Holy shit. He's so incredibly strong that even some of the strongest gates cannot withstand his constant pounding. In essence, nobody's safe anymore behind locked doors.
This essentially is a prop we've created for the burrowing zombies, and this is called the mandible. We have several of these for the movie. They're made in silicone. We've created this from a sculpture. We've used dental acrylic for the actual teeth here, and the silicone itself is very pliable and very posable. So we essentially created these as dead versions within the movie, but they're also going to be used as lighting reference for the CG guys. So they will create a three-dimensional version of this within the computer world.
Dogs have always been a key part of the Resident Evil films and of the games. But to be honest, I was dreading having to put the dogs in another movie. Because at this point, having dealt with them in 3 movies already, I was really at a loss as to what can I do with these dogs to make them different and fresh.
The undead dogs, this is the 4th time we've seen them in a movie. And this is the worst we've seen them in the movie because it is 4 years after the original T-virus epidemic. So they are pretty horrendous at this point.
I was really helped out by Resident Evil 5, the game, because actually when I was playing the game, I saw the dogs again, and I'm like, oh, these things again. And then suddenly their heads split open, and I'm like, wow, this is fantastic.
Just as Capcom have taken the undeads and the dogs to the next level, we went with them.
I've always felt that the movies should be infused with the visual language of the video games. What the game looks like, what it moves like, what it feels like. So I've tried to recreate that as much as possible.
When the first game came out, it was so frightening. I mean, I'm just playing Resident Evil in the basement, and you are terrified to take a step.
The video game is absolutely humongously huge, and so I'm really hoping that we do justice to the boys and girls who play this video game around the world.
The gamers are really, really important, and they've always been a consideration for Paul, who's always been very interested in what the gamers have to say and how they think.
I have a very close relationship with Capcom, which are the creators of the video game. Capcom, for me, is a very good way to stay in touch with what gamers want and what they think of the video games. Because obviously Capcom will do a huge amount of research into what people think of their games.
We always try to learn from what the video game designers do in terms of the creatures, in terms of set pieces that they create.
One of the best things about this Resident Evil is how closely aligned it is with the Resident Evil games.
You recreate the kind of mise-en-scène and the look and the feel of the sets. That kind of classic overhead shot is a staple of the games.
Hey, we're down here!
If you're a fan of the games, you're gonna see all these things that correlate to it. Claire Redfield, here I am back in the original video game outfit.
With the success of the last video game, we said, you know, wouldn't it be great to include Chris Redfield into the world of our movie?
Name's Chris.
We wanted to bring Chris Redfield into this film. He was very strong in Resident Evil 5, the game, which has been a very successful game. He's a very strong male character.
When I was offered the part, I thought I'd do some research online. And what I found online, just by Googling images, was that Chris Redfield was this kind of massive, bulked up character. So right from the start, I thought, well, I'm not sure I'll be able to bring that to the table. But then when I started to watch the sequences from the video game, I saw something completely different. There was something kind of innocent about him. Definitely heroic, definitely capable of holding his own.
Key villains from the game, probably the biggest villain from the game, is Albert Wesker. And I wanted to really dig into that character and give him the primary villain role in Resident Evil Afterlife.
Well, when I heard that they were going to be making a movie based on the 5th video game, I was in the store, I had that game, and I spent hours. I'm not really a gamer, but having this game turned me into a gamer.
We'd recreate one of the key fight scenes in Resident Evil 5, which involves Wesker and Chris Redfield. And we did that almost shot for shot from the game. There were some insane camera moves and some great fight moves. We did that for two reasons. One was I thought if you're a fan, you'd really appreciate seeing that brought to life on the cinema screen. And the other is, even if you don't know Resident Evil, it just looks so damn cool.
It's all about being precision, precise. We're shooting at 200 frames a second. You get to see all of the motion and the camera moving in, taken right from the video game.
The undead have developed throughout the movies. You know, the video games actually ended up moving away from zombies a little bit.
We pulled two elements from Resident Evil 5, the Axeman and the Mangini undead.
These undead that had creatures living within them. These kind of tentacular horrors that came out of their mouths. Again, fantastic imagery. Very scary, very surprising, and that's something that we used to great effect in the movie.
I get to fight the Axeman, which I have heard is some of people's favorite character in the video games.
I hope they think we've really presented the Axeman and the Mangini and the dogs in a cool way in this film. We do our best.
Cut me loose. Am I saying tie me loose?
Tie me loose.
Okay, I didn't go.
Waiting.
That might be a little over the top.
Beat it, Jeff. Beat it.
Really, action?
Action.
I think it's Wendell.
I'll just do it, and we'll see if it works.
Here we go.
back! And pull back.
Wake up, sugar boobs. Wake up, okay?
Don't converge on my nose.
I'm sorry. I made a lot of money saying those words just now.
Hi.
Hi. I'm in.
I can scrub your back.
You stupid. Stop it. Stop it!
We're going down!
Let her go!
Oh.
Come on. I just want to go home. Come on, man. This is fucking bullshit. I can't make movies like this anymore.
Are you okay?
You know, this ship, the Arcadia, it might not be everything we want it to be.
Could it be any worse than what we left behind?
I guess we'll find out soon enough.
The river should take us to Long Beach, then out to sea. We're gonna be all right.
I still can't remember you. But I hope you are my brother.
Where's Angel? Luther! Fuck me. We gotta go. Come on.
These should work underwater.
Guess we'll find out. Where do you think you're going?
Coming with. I was a swim champ back in high school. No one could hold their breath longer.
Is that right?
It's all about lung capacity versus body weight. That's why women are better at holding their breath than you big, strong men.
Take this. Can you shoot as well as swim?
Honey, I live in LA.
Here. When you get in, make sure the barrel fills with water. There can't be any air trapped in that gun.
Or what?
It explodes.
So now you're gonna trust me with a gun?
Yeah, why not?
Time to get your hands dirty, big man.
We're getting dirty. Here, dirty.
Dirty.
Dirty. Okay. All right. Okay.
Alice, you were my friend.
I like to think so.
Was I a good person?
Why would you ask that?
I have this feeling that I let people down.
You're not the only one.
What do you mean?
We struggle, we fight, we watch our friends die. Survival is a bitch.
Switch to satellite infrared.
Our men are being overrun. Multiple intruders.
Biohazard?
No, sir. Body heat detected. Not biohazard. And they're fast.
What the hell are they?
Below the surface charges.
Sir, our men are still up there.